We have officially arrived at the moment that history will record as the absolute and total collapse of the Trump dynasty. I need you to understand that what is happening right now is not just a legal ruling. It is the complete dismantling of a myth that has poisoned this country for decades. The headlines you are seeing are real. A federal judge has issued an order that does not just freeze assets. It orders the seizure of Donald Trump's most famous properties to satisfy the massive judgments against him. We are talking about the seizure of Mar-a-Lago. We are talking about the seizure of Trump Tower. We are talking about the end of the Trump Organization as a functioning business. Donald Trump is watching his entire life's work be taken away by the very government he tried to overthrow. The panic inside his inner circle is unlike anything we have ever seen before. You need to stay with me because the details of this ruling are absolutely explosive, and the mainstream media is often too afraid to connect the dots for you. This is not just about unpaid bills or bank fraud. This seizure is directly tied to national security crimes. The judge ruled that because Donald Trump used his business empire to help illegal foreign plans, specifically the unauthorized coup attempt in Venezuela, his assets are now subject to being taken under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This is the nuclear option of our legal system. They are not just giving him a fine, they are evicting him. Let us be very clear about what this means for a man who built his entire identity around being a winner. He is now legally and financially the biggest loser in American history. The court has decided that the properties he uses as his personal playgrounds, the golf courses, and the penthouses where he plots his moves, are actually the result of illegal activities and fraud. Imagine the humiliation for a man who puts his name in gold on everything. He now has to watch as federal authorities remove those letters one by one. This is the end of his ego, and without that, he is left with nothing. However, we must look deeper at why this is happening now. The timing is not a coincidence. The Senate is in chaos, and 18 Republican senators have finally turned on him. Why? Because they knew this ruling was coming. They knew that financial records showed that Donald Trump is not really a billionaire. Instead, he is a man in debt who owes favors to foreign groups that are not friends of the United States. Republicans are leaving him not because they suddenly found their morals, but because the leader has been exposed as broke. They know that without his money and his properties, his hold over his followers will disappear. Picture the scene right now. Reports say that the Department of Justice and the U.S. Marshals are preparing to secure these buildings. This is real. We are moving toward a world where Mar-a-Lago is no longer a private club for his supporters. It is becoming government property. The irony is huge. The man who tried to treat the White House like a hotel is now losing his own hotels to the public. But you must also understand the danger. Donald Trump is not going to go quietly. He is already using his social media, the only thing he has left, to try and start trouble. He claims they are stealing his home and asks his supporters to defend his golf courses as if they were a battlefield. It is sad, but it is also dangerous. He is willing to risk people's lives to save his buildings. This is why we see more tension in places like Minneapolis. They are trying to create a distraction so you don't notice that the bank is taking everything away from the boss. The judge's order was very specific. It targets the assets that give him cash and political power. Trump Tower is his headquarters. Mar-a-Lago is his command center. By taking these, the court is stopping his political machine. He cannot run a campaign without a base, and he cannot host parties without a ballroom. The judge has cut off his air supply, which is why his supporters in the media are so angry. We also cannot forget the people who suffered. While Trump cries about his gold toilets, many families are struggling to survive. This ruling is a victory for every American who follows the rules and pays their taxes. It sends a message that no matter how rich or powerful you think you are, you cannot steal from the people and get away with it. The evidence against him is very strong. The court found that his company was used to hide money and break international rules. The Venezuela situation is the most important part. He tried to use the military to help himself financially by unlocking oil assets. He traded the safety of soldiers for a real estate deal. He treated the U.S. military like his own collection agency. And now that the plan failed, the court is taking his properties. This is why even Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell are trying to distance themselves. They realized he is now a toxic asset and are trying to save themselves. Do not look away because the next 48 hours will be critical. We are going to see extreme desperation from Trump's team. There are rumors he is trying to move his money to family members or offshore accounts. But the judge already thought of that. The order includes a global freeze. If he tries to move anything, he will face more criminal charges. He is trapped and cornered. For the first time, we are holding a powerful person accountable in real time. We are proving that the presidency does not protect you from the law. This is a test for our country, and the system is actually working. The judiciary is doing its job, and the legislature is finally waking up. This seizure is also a final blow to his legal defense. Lawyers don't work for free, and if his money is gone, how can he pay for his defense? He will be left exposed and vulnerable, which is exactly where he should be. He took away protections from others for years, and now his own protections are gone. Please share this information because some people will try to tell you this is communism or that the government is just being mean. That is a lie. This is about taking back the results of a crime. If anyone else bought a house with illegal money, the government would take it. Donald Trump is no different. He built his empire on fraud and corruption, and now the government is taking back what belongs to the public. Do not let anyone trick you into defending a man who wouldn't help you. Seizing Mar-a-Lago is symbolic because that is where he kept secrets and planned his moves. Taking it back is like cleaning a wound. We are reclaiming the ground he damaged. But we must stay alert even if his business falls. The ideas he pushed are still there. We must demand that the money from these sales goes to help the communities he hurt. Donald Trump says this is un-American, but holding people accountable is actually very American. No one, not a general, not a senator, and not a president, is above the law. The fall of this empire is the sound of freedom. He tried to buy the country, and now the country is taking its things back. Watch the news today. When you see the police tape around Trump Tower, know that you are seeing the end of an era. You are seeing a world where actions have consequences. It might be messy and loud, but it is necessary for our system to survive. We are cleaning out the corruption, one building at a time. The time of Donald Trump is ending with a legal notice, not a bang. He is losing what he loves because he didn't respect the laws of this land. He chose his own money over the Constitution, and now he has lost both. Justice took a long time, but it has finally arrived with a court order and a padlock. Stay focused because we need to see this through to the end. For now, remember that in this country, the law is still the highest power. The empire has fallen, and now it is time to fix the republic. As the buildings are locked up, we see the true face of the situation. It's not just about bricks and gold. It's about the truth coming to light. For years, people believed the image of the successful businessman. But now, the truth is revealed in these court documents. The world is watching as the United States shows that its institutions can still function. Every witness and every piece of evidence has led to this moment. It is a turning point for the nation. We are moving from a time of personality cults back to a time of rules and accountability. This is a moment of reflection for everyone, regardless of their political side. It shows that the foundations of our democracy are stronger than any one individual. As the gold letters are taken down, a new chapter begins for the country. We must learn from this and make sure it never happens again. The work of rebuilding trust will take time, but today is a huge step in the right direction. In the coming weeks, there will be more trials and more details. The Venezuela coup attempt and the financial fraud are just the beginning. We must stay informed and keep demanding the truth. The media will play a big role in how this is remembered. So, we must look for the facts. This is about more than just one person. It's about the soul of the nation. We are proving that we are a country of laws, not of men. As we watch the Trump properties being sold off, let it be a reminder that honesty and integrity matter. The fall of the dynasty is a lesson for future generations. It shows that you cannot build a lasting legacy on lies and corruption. The future is up to us, and how we handle this moment will define us for a long time. Let's work together to make sure our government serves the people, not just the powerful. The era of the big man is over, and the era of the citizen is returning. Let us stay vigilant and hopeful as we move forward into this new era. Justice has been served. 3:25 a.m., January 30th, 2026. Deep inside the White House residence, Donald Trump sits alone in the dark, eyes locked on his phone screen. The blue glow cuts sharp across his face. For the last 20 minutes, he's been scrolling through incoming messages. And according to someone who saw him a few hours later, his expression was that of a man watching his entire empire crumble in real time. Lindsey Graham, the senator who stood by him through 2 impeachments, who went on cable news hundreds of times to defend him, who carried water when almost no one else would, just sent 3 words: "I am done, sir." In 8 brutal years of political combat, those 3 words have never come from Lindsey Graham. Not once. But that wasn't the only message landing in the middle of the night. Susan Collins sent one. Lisa Murkowski sent one. Mitt Romney, as expected, sent one. Then came the one that truly rattled him, Mitch McConnell. The text was short, formal, and final. Mr. President, we need to talk about your future in this party. Nobody in Washington is sleeping tonight. What just happened is not another chapter of routine Republican squabbling. This is the breaking point, the moment the dam finally gave way. Pay close attention, because what I'm about to lay out will not show up in mainstream coverage for at least the next 48 hours. Right now, I have 3 leaked documents in front of me, 4 confirmed sources inside the Senate Republican Conference, and the verbatim transcript of what Mitch McConnell told his colleagues behind closed doors when he said continuing to defend Donald Trump is no longer politically sustainable. Subscribe to this channel immediately. This information has a very short shelf life, maybe 6 hours, before the spin machine kicks into high gear and tries to bury it. Hit the notification bell. This story is moving faster than anything I've tracked in years, and you need to be here when the next piece falls. Susan Collins woke at 2:17 a.m. because her phone was ringing. Private number. She knew instantly who it was. You don't get 2:17 a.m. calls from block numbers unless the caller believes standard rules of courtesy no longer apply. She answered, "Mr. President." And what followed, according to a source who has heard the recording, yes, there is a recording, was 4 minutes and 37 seconds of unrelenting fury. Trump didn't greet her. He didn't explain the call. He launched straight into screaming, "You just destroyed the Republican Party. I made you. I own you. And now you're going to pay for what you did." Collins didn't hang up. She let him rage until he ran out of breath. When he finally paused, she delivered one calm sentence. "Mr. President, I do not work for you. I work for the people of Maine." Then she ended the call. She didn't go back to sleep. At 4 a.m., she phoned Mitch McConnell. At 4:30 a.m., Lisa Murkowski called McConnell. By 5:15 a.m., McConnell had fielded calls from 6 different Republican senators. Every single one reported the same pattern. Late-night calls from Trump, identical tone, identical threats, identical belief that intimidation would force compliance. That's when McConnell understood something Trump apparently did not grasp. Threaten one senator in private and you create fear. Threaten 12 senators on the same night and you create a coalition. Trump had just committed the single largest tactical blunder of his entire political life. He believed raw intimidation would scatter them. Instead, he handed them permission to unite. At 6:30 a.m., John Barrasso received a text from Mitch McConnell. "My office, 7:43, non-negotiable." Barrasso stared at the message for a full minute. He knew exactly what it meant. McConnell doesn't summon people at 7:43 a.m. unless the building is on fire. In this case, the building was the Republican Party itself. Barrasso walked into McConnell's office at precisely 7:43. John Thune was already seated. So was John Cornyn. The door closed. McConnell skipped pleasantries. No good morning, no coffee. He simply opened his laptop, turned the screen toward the 3 men, and hit play. Donald Trump's voice filled the quiet room. "I don't need the Senate. These people work for me. They do what I tell them or they're gone." The audio came from a private call Trump had with a major donor 2 days earlier. Someone, identity still unknown, recorded it and forwarded it to McConnell. Barrasso looked at Thune. Thune looked at Cornyn. For 23 seconds, nobody spoke. The silence felt heavy enough to crush stone. Then McConnell asked the only question that mattered. "Gentlemen, are we employees or are we senators?" John Barrasso is chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. His entire role is to preserve party unity, to keep the caucus together, to shield leadership. But he also represents Wyoming, a state Trump carried by 43 points, and the internal polling Barrasso reviewed last week was terrifying. Trump's net favorability in Wyoming had turned negative. Voters were exhausted. Major donors were quietly pulling back. And Barrasso himself now faces a primary challenger who has already raised $4.22 million. He had 2 paths: stay loyal to Trump and almost certainly lose his seat in 2026, or break and face a primary fight. He might actually survive. Barrasso sat calculating while McConnell waited. 30 seconds passed. Then he looked up and said 4 words that shifted the entire landscape. "What is the plan?" At 12:15 p.m., Donald Trump called Lindsey Graham. Graham was in his Senate office when the phone rang. He checked the caller ID, took a deep breath, and answered, "Mr. President." Trump wasted no time. "Lindsey, you know what they're doing is treason. You know that, right? They're stabbing me in the back, and I need you to go on television tonight and say it. I need you to defend me the way you always have." There was a long pause. Then Graham said something the leaked transcript shows he had never said to Donald Trump in 8 years. "Sir, I defended you through the Ukraine impeachment. I defended you through January 6th. I defended you through 2 separate impeachment trials. But I will not defend threatening military action against Denmark. I will not defend calling our NATO allies enemies. I will not go on television and pretend that is normal." Trump erupted. The transcript records him calling Graham a coward, a traitor, and several unprintable names. Then came the line that severed the relationship. "You're done, Lindsey, you're finished. I will make sure you never win another election." Graham did not shout back. He simply replied, "Mr. President, I wish you well." Then he hung up. What most observers are missing about this moment is that Lindsey Graham is not suddenly turning into a profile and courage hero. He is not experiencing a late moral awakening. This is cold, hard survival arithmetic. Graham's internal polling, numbers not yet public, shows his approval in South Carolina has collapsed to 38%, the lowest of his career. He faces a primary challenger who has raised $4.2 million in 3 months. For the first time in Graham's political life, association with Donald Trump is a net negative in his home state. The math is merciless. Defending Trump gives him roughly a 60% chance of losing the primary. Opposing Trump gives him a 40% chance. Brutal, but clear. So Graham did not call back. He sent one text, "I am done, sir." Then he did something almost no one expected. He contacted the Canadian Prime Minister's office and requested a meeting to discuss South Carolina textile exports. Why? Because Lindsey Graham just realized that if a full Republican civil war erupts, he needs insurance. And that insurance comes from strong economic ties with trading partners who can cushion his state's economy when federal support disappears. This is not ideology. This is not principle. This is pure political survival playing out in real time. Mitch McConnell did not call that 7:43 a.m. meeting to vent frustration. He convened it to execute a plan that had been sitting in his desk drawer for 2 weeks. He pulled out a 3-page document and slid it across the table to Barrasso, Thune, and Cornyn. The header read, "Strategic Response Framework." What followed was the most meticulously designed political counterstrike I've seen in modern Senate history. Stage 1. The letter already executed by the time they sat down. 12 senators had signed a joint public statement opposing Trump's demands for emergency powers and his threats against NATO allies. The language was precise, constitutional, and lethal. We can no longer in good conscience enable conduct that threatens constitutional order and undermines the institutional prerogatives granted to the United States Senate. 12 signatures released simultaneously across multiple outlets. The signal was unmistakable. The Constitution comes before the President. Stage 2. The money. This is where the plan turns ruthless. If Trump launches primary challenges against any of the 12 signatories, the Senate Leadership Fund will commit $50 million to defend them. The National Republican Senatorial Committee will refuse to fund any Trump-backed challengers. Major corporate donors have already been quietly mobilized and are standing ready. The genius is in the economics. McConnell is not trying to prevent primaries. He is making those primaries financially impossible to win. Trump can threaten all he wants, but he cannot personally bankroll 12 simultaneous credible primary campaigns against incumbent senators backed by the full weight of the Republican establishment. The numbers simply don't add up. Stage 3. The constitutional weapon. This is the nuclear option carrying roughly a 30% probability of activation according to McConnell's own internal assessment. If Trump keeps escalating, if he continues threatening allies, if he attempts to federalize the National Guard or misuse emergency powers, the Senate will introduce a formal resolution limiting executive authority on emergency declarations. That resolution would require bipartisan support, meaning Republicans would have to cross the aisle and work with Democrats. It would mark the first time in modern history that the Senate formally acted to constrain a president from their own party, while that president still wielded significant influence. One senator involved in drafting the plan told a colleague, direct quote from the leak, "We were rammed every scenario. If he wants a fight, we are prepared to fight. but he needs to understand something fundamental. This time, we are not backing down. On January 28th at 8 p.m., 15 major Republican donors joined a conference call. Their combined net worth, $47 billion. These are not small dollar contributors. These are the individuals and families who bankroll Senate campaigns, presidential ground operations, and the entire Republican infrastructure. The listed topic was Trump viability assessment. What they were really debating was whether continued association with Donald Trump now represented a material risk to their businesses and investments. The call lasted 90 minutes. A leaked memo summarizing the outcome contained one sentence that should terrify anyone still tied to Trump's operation. Continued association poses material risk to corporate reputation and shareholder value. Translation: Trump has become bad for business. Over the next 3 hours, the decision cascaded into public view. At 9:30 p.m., 3 major donors released a joint statement. We support constitutional governance and institutional stability. Code for, we are backing the Senate, not the President. At 10:15 p.m., the U.S. Chamber of Commerce issued its own release. Constitutional stability is essential for economic growth and investor confidence. Translation: end the chaos or we end the funding. At 11 p.m., the National Association of Manufacturers followed with nearly identical language. Corporate America had just delivered a clear message to the Republican Party: choose a side. In practical terms, this means Trump is not merely losing senators, he is losing the money pipeline. Without corporate donors, there are no competitive Senate races in 2026. There is no presidential ground game in 2028. There is no advertising budget, no data operation, no infrastructure. Republican senators are watching Donald Trump turn financially toxic in real time. And in politics, money is not merely influence. Money is survival. The donors have chosen. The only remaining question is whether Trump fully comprehends what has just happened. We are now inside a 72-hour window that will decide whether the Republican Party survives as a coherent entity or fractures beyond repair. I've been tracking 3 distinct scenarios, each with clear trigger events you need to monitor. Scenario 1. Trump backs down. Probability, 25%. Signs to watch. Truth Social goes dark for more than 24 hours. Lawyers forcing silence. The emergency powers demand is quietly withdrawn without fanfare. Trump issues a face-saving statement claiming mission accomplished, or we're moving forward. Fox News suddenly pivots within 12 hours to unity and healing, indicating coordinated messaging to soften the retreat. Why possible? His legal team will show him McConnell's Stage 3 plan and explain he cannot simultaneously fight the Senate, the House, and 4 criminal cases. Scenario 2. Prolonged stalemate. Probability, 50%. The most dangerous outcome. Trump keeps attacking on social media but stops short of launching primaries. The Senate holds firm but refrains from activating Stage 3. Result: an uneasy, grinding standoff that paralyzes the party for months. Donors freeze money. Candidates delay announcements. The slow fracture creates maximum chaos with no resolution. Key indicator: moderate Republicans begin announcing retirements over the next 2 weeks, signaling they believe the party is imploding from within and they want out before the damage spreads. Scenario 3. Full civil war. Probability, 25%. Triggers are precise. If Trump announces a primary challenge against Susan Collins within 12 to 24 hours, the war begins. If the Senate moves forward with the emergency powers resolution within 48 hours, McConnell has gone nuclear. If additional senators publicly defect within 72 hours, the coalition is expanding and Trump is losing control. The cascade would be catastrophic. Primary in South Carolina means Graham releases opposition research he's held for years. Primary in Maine means Collins does the same. Primary in Alaska means Morawski runs as independent and caucuses with Democrats, flipping Senate control overnight. One factor almost no one is discussing publicly, but is being whispered at the highest levels of government. In the past 48 hours, 3 separate cabinet-level sources have independently confirmed the same thing to me. Quiet conversations about invoking the 25th Amendment have begun among cabinet members. I need to be crystal clear. I am not predicting invocation is imminent. I am reporting that the mere fact these discussions are happening at all is historically unprecedented for a president who still holds meaningful political support inside his party. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment allows the Vice President plus a majority of the Cabinet, 8 signatures, to send a written declaration to congressional leadership stating the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office. Power transfers to the Vice President immediately. No hearings, no initial vote, instantaneous. This mechanism moves faster than impeachment. It can happen overnight. Why now? Sources point to the behavior exposed in those middle-of-the-night calls to senators. One cabinet member described a president who has lost the ability to separate political disagreement from personal betrayal. Someone making decisions driven by rage rather than calculation. The same source cited threats of military action against allies and internal discussions about federalizing the National Guard to protect personal property from state-level seizure. The constitutional paradox is brutal. Invoking Section 4 requires the Vice President to effectively stage a coup against his own president. Once done, it creates overwhelming political pressure because reversing it means admitting the action was illegitimate. Cabinet members would only take this step if convinced the president poses a clear and present danger to the constitutional order. The implications are seismic. If invoked, Trump loses all presidential authority instantly. The vice president becomes acting president. Trump can contest, triggering a congressional vote, requiring 2/3 of both chambers to make removal permanent. But the damage is already irreversible. The visual of a president removed by his own cabinet would be seared into history. According to one off-their-record cabinet source, those late-night calls to senators were the final straw that started these conversations. Right now, 12 Republican senators have publicly broken with Trump. Corporate donors have pulled the financial plug. McConnell's 3-stage plan is live, and the 25th Amendment is being quietly discussed inside the cabinet. The next 72 hours will determine whether Donald Trump still controls the Republican Party or whether the Republican Party has finally decided it must control him. Trump will fight back. Of course he will. The real question is whether the party can survive his counterattack. If he launches all-out primaries and the GOP donor class refuses to fund them, we are about to witness something unprecedented in American political history. A major party effectively bankrupting itself in a civil war against its own former leader. Subscribe right now. In the next 24 hours, Trump will respond. In the next 48 hours, the Senate will decide whether to activate Stage 3. In the next 72 hours, we will know which scenario is unfolding. I'll update you the moment breaking developments hit. Turn on all notifications. History is being written in real time, and you need to be here when it happens. I'll see you in the next breakdown. Stay sharp.